Right now, at this exact moment, as you're watching this video, the ground beneath 3 different continents is tearing itself open. In Indonesia, 8 separate volcanoes are erupting at the same time. Not 1, not 2, 8. In Italy, Mount Etna just threw a column of ash a mile into the sky, shutting down an international airport and stranding thousands of travelers across Sicily. And in Iceland, scientists are staring at their instruments, watching 26 million cubic meters of molten rock pushing upward beneath a power plant, warning that an eruption is now the most likely scenario in the coming weeks. 3 regions, thousands of miles apart, all waking up at once. And people everywhere are asking the same question. Is this normal? Or is something bigger happening to our planet? Stay with me until the end of this video, because the answer is more unsettling than you think, and it's not the answer you're expecting. Let's start where the fire burns hottest. Indonesia. 17,000 islands stretched across the most violent volcanic real estate on Earth, the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is a country built on top of a subduction zone, a place where the Indo-Australian tectonic plate is being forced down beneath the Eurasian plate, grinding downward inch by inch, year after year. And when ocean crust gets dragged into the Earth's mantle, it melts. That melt has to go somewhere. In Indonesia, it comes up through more than 120 active volcanoes, the most of any country on the planet. And right now, in July of 2026, that system is running hot. 8 volcanoes in eruption simultaneously, several of them holding at alert level 3, 1 step below the maximum. The names read like a roll call of destruction. Merapi, Semeru, Krakatau, Liwotobi, Dukono, Ibu, Liwotolok, Merapi. Take Merapi. The name literally means mountain of fire, looming over the city of Yogyakarta on the island of Java, with millions of people living in its shadow. Right now, Merapi has an active lava dome sitting on its upper southwestern flank. Think of a lava dome as a plug of thick, red-hot rock being squeezed out of the mountain like toothpaste, unstable, growing, and constantly collapsing. Every single day, that dome is shedding avalanches of glowing lava, 8 to 15 of them daily, tumbling as far as 2 kilometers down the mountain's drainages. But that's not the frightening part. The frightening part is the pyroclastic flows. Multiple times this month, Merapi has generated them. Avalanches of superheated gas, ash, and rock that race down the slopes faster than a car on a highway, at temperatures hot enough to instantly ignite everything they touch. In 2010, flows just like these killed more than 300 people on this exact mountain. Today, authorities are warning everyone to stay between 3 and 7 kilometers away from the summit. The mountain is at alert level 3, and it is not calming down. 600 kilometers to the east, Semeru, the tallest volcano on Java, is erupting up to 6 times in a single day, punching ash columns 1,000 meters above its crater. In December 2021, Semeru's pyroclastic flows buried entire villages, killing dozens of people while survivors described a black wall of ash swallowing the sun in the middle of the afternoon. That mountain has never truly gone back to sleep. And then there's a name that should send a chill down your spine. Krakatau. Or more precisely, Anak Krakatau, the volcano that Krakatau. The volcano that grew out of the sea in the exact spot where its parent tore itself apart in 1883. That eruption remains one of the deadliest in recorded human history. The explosion was heard nearly 5,000 kilometers away, the loudest sound in modern human history. It generated tsunamis over 30 meters tall that erased 300 towns and villages and killed more than 36,000 people. And the child born from that catastrophe has already proven it inherited the family temper. In 2018, a chunk of Anak Krakatau collapsed into the sea and sent a tsunami into the coasts of Java and Sumatra with almost no warning, killing more than 400 people at night while families slept. Right now, that same volcano is at alert level 3, actively erupting, throwing up ash plumes with a 3-kilometer exclusion zone around it. Officials say there's currently no threat to the distant beaches of Banten, but everyone in Indonesia remembers that in 2018, they said similar things, right up until the mountain fell into the ocean. Further east, on the island of Flores, Liwotobi Laki-Laki is still erupting. The same volcano that exploded in November 2024, hurling incandescent rock onto sleeping villages, killing residents, and forcing thousands to flee. And in the remote north, on the island of Halmahera, Dukono and Ibu are exploding with frequent ash emissions. Dukono has been erupting almost continuously for decades, but the intensity we're seeing now has aviation authorities issuing warning after warning. 8 volcanoes, 1 country, all at once. And Indonesia is only the first name on our list. Now travel 9,000 kilometers west to the Mediterranean. To Italy, The only country in mainland Europe with active volcanoes, and a place where humans have been living beside fire and dying by it for thousands of years. This is where Vesuvius buried Pompeii alive in 79 AD. And this month, Italy's giants stirred again. On the 5th and 6th of July, Mount Etna, the largest and most active volcano in Europe, erupted from its summit craters, sending an ash column 1.5 kilometers into the sky. Within hours, Catania International Airport, one of the busiest in southern Italy, was forced to close. Hundreds of flights canceled or diverted. Travelers stranded across Sicily in the middle of peak summer season, sleeping in terminals while volcanic ash drifted down onto the runways like gray snow. Lava poured from 2 separate vents while a brand new fissure tore open between the Voragine crater and the northeast crater, the mountain literally splitting in a new place. Scientists at Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology watched strombolian explosions light up the summit night after night. By July 8th, the Voragine activity finally ceased. But nobody who studies Etna believes it's finished. This volcano has erupted dozens of times in the last decade alone. Each pause is just a breath between explosions. A short distance north, on a tiny island in the Tyrrhenian Sea, Stromboli continues doing what it has done for over 2,000 years, erupting almost constantly, hurling glowing rock from its crater terrace in rhythmic explosions, earning its ancient nickname, the Lighthouse of the Mediterranean. Sailors have navigated by its fire since Roman times. It is still exploding right now, from multiple vent areas, watched around the clock by webcams and monitoring networks. But here's the truth about Italy that most people don't want to hear. Etna is not the danger. Stromboli is not the danger. The real monster in Italy doesn't even look like a volcano. It looks like a neighborhood. West of Naples, there's a vast, sunken expanse of land called Campi Flegrei, the burning fields. It's not a mountain. It's a caldera, a colossal volcanic depression 12 by 15 kilometers wide, formed when ancient supereruptions were so violent that the ground itself collapsed into the emptied magma chamber. 39,000 years ago, this system produced one of the largest eruptions Europe has ever seen. An event so massive that its ash blanketed the continent, and some scientists believe it contributed to pressures that shaped the fate of the Neanderthals. Today, roughly 500,000 people live directly inside and around that caldera. Their homes, schools, and hospitals sit on top of it, and the ground beneath their feet is rising. Right now, the surface at Campi Flegrei is lifting at roughly 10 millimeters every month. Since 2005, the ground has risen by more than 140 centimeters. Stop and picture that. The land an entire population lives on has bulged upward by nearly 1.5 meters, pushed from below. Earthquake swarms have been rattling the area. 47 to 70 earthquakes in a single week earlier this year. On June 30th of last year, a magnitude 4.6 quake, the strongest recorded there in decades, shook Naples itself, cracking buildings and sending people running into the streets. The fumaroles, the volcanic vents that hiss gas from the ground, are releasing elevated levels of sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. And in April of this year, a scientific paper made headlines around the world with a chilling conclusion. The accelerating unrest at Campi Flegrei may signal that the system is approaching a critical transition within the next decade. Some projections point toward 2033. Now, to be absolutely clear, Italian scientists say no eruption is imminent. The alert level remains yellow, attention, not alarm. But the evacuation plan for the red zone covers 500,000 human beings. And the last time this caldera experienced a major unrest crisis, in the early 1980s, parts of the historic center of Pozzuoli were abandoned and never fully repopulated. This time, the geochemical data suggests the force driving the uplift is deeper and more magmatic than before. The burning fields are living up to their name. And that brings us to the third region on our list, the one where scientists aren't asking if, but when. Iceland. Iceland exists because of a wound in the planet. It's the only place on Earth where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the 10,000-mile underwater mountain chain where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are being pulled apart, rises above the ocean surface. The island is literally being stretched in 2 directions at once, about 2.5 centimeters every year. Magma rises to fill the gap. That's not a design flaw. That's how Iceland was built. And on the Reykjanes Peninsula, in the southwest corner of the country, an 800-year silence has ended. In March 2021, after tens of thousands of earthquakes, a fissure ripped open in a valley called Geldingadalur, the first eruption on the peninsula in roughly 8 centuries. Scientists immediately understood what they were seeing. Not a one-off event, but the opening act of a new volcanic era that could last decades, possibly centuries. They were right. Since December 2023, the Sundanukur crater Rho near the town of Grindavik has erupted 9 separate times. 9 eruptions in under 2 years. Curtains of lava fountaining from fissures kilometers long. And this time, unlike the harmless tourist eruptions of 2021, the fire came for a town. Grindavik, a fishing community of nearly 4,000 people, was evacuated in the middle of the night in November 2023 as the ground beneath it cracked open. Streets split apart. Houses were torn by fissures running directly beneath their foundations. One person is presumed to have died after falling into a crack that opened in the ground. Lava later reached the edge of town and burned homes. Today, Grindavik stands largely as a ghost town, a modern European community abandoned to a volcano, its residents scattered, most never to return. Defensive barriers of piled earth now guard what remains, along with the famous Blue Lagoon and the Svartsengi geothermal power plant that supplies the region's power and hot water. The most recent eruption ended on August 5th of last year. And since then, silence. But not the good kind of silence. Beneath Svartsengi, the instruments show the land swelling again as magma flows into the shallow chamber. The estimates are staggering. Roughly 26 million cubic meters of molten rock accumulating below, approaching the highest volumes ever observed in this system before an eruption. The Icelandic Meteorological Office has stated plainly that a new eruption at Svartsengi Sundanukur is the most likely scenario in the coming weeks. In Iceland, nobody debates whether the volcano will erupt again. They simply watch the ground rise, millimeter by millimeter, like a chest slowly filling with breath, and they wait for the exhale. So there it is, Indonesia burning, Italy shaking, Iceland inflating. Add to that Kilauea in Hawaii, which has erupted dozens of times since December 2024 in spectacular lava fountain episodes. Mayon in the Philippines at alert level 3 with lava creeping down 3 gullies. Sheveluk in Russia's Kamchatka throwing ash plumes 7 kilometers high, and around 20 other volcanoes in ongoing eruption across the globe this very week. Which brings us to the question this entire video has been building toward. The question flooding social media every time another mountain explodes. Are these eruptions connected? Is the Earth entering some new phase? Is something waking up? Here's the honest, scientific answer. And I promise you, it's stranger than the conspiracy theories. No, they are not connected. And the reason why reveals something incredible about the planet you're standing on. Indonesia's volcanoes are fed by subduction, an oceanic plate diving beneath a continental one and melting. Iceland's volcanoes are fed by the exact opposite, 2 plates spreading apart and letting magma rise into the gap. Italy's system is its own complex collision zone between Africa and Europe. These are 3 completely different geological engines, thousands of kilometers apart, with no physical mechanism linking them. A volcano erupting in Flores cannot trigger a fissure in Iceland. The magma chambers don't talk to each other. The Earth has no single fuse. And here's the number that will really recalibrate your fear. At any given moment, any day, any year, any decade, there are roughly 40 to 50 volcanoes in active eruption somewhere on Earth. This week's count of 20-some ongoing eruptions plus new activity? That's not an anomaly. That is the planet's normal heartbeat. It was happening in 1926. It was happening in 1826. The difference is that in 1826, a farmer in Ohio would live and die without ever hearing about an ash plume in Halmahera. Today, every eruption on Earth is filmed in 4K from a dozen angles, uploaded within minutes, and pushed into your feed with a headline designed to make your heart race. The volcanoes haven't changed. The cameras have. But, and this is where it gets genuinely unsettling, that doesn't mean there's nothing to worry about. Because while the planet's volcanic output is stable, our exposure to it has exploded. In 1800, about 1 billion humans lived on Earth. Today, more than 800 million people live within 100 kilometers of an active volcano. Cities have grown up the flanks of sleeping giants. Naples wraps around Campi Flegrei. Yogyakarta sprawls beneath Merapi. Catania sits in Etna's shadow. Millions of aircraft passengers cross volcanic ash corridors every single day. And as Etna just demonstrated by shutting down an airport with a single afternoon of activity, it doesn't take a super eruption to paralyze modern life. In 2010, a moderate eruption in Iceland, Eyjafjallajökull, grounded 100,000 flights across Europe and cost the global economy billions. That was a small volcano, having an average eruption. The vulnerability isn't in the Earth, it's in us. And there is one more truth the scientists will tell you, quietly, when you ask. Somewhere on Earth, a very large eruption is overdue, statistically speaking. Events like Tambora in 1815, which killed tens of thousands directly and then chilled the entire planet, Canceling summer across the northern hemisphere and triggering famines on 3 continents happen roughly once every few centuries. We have built our entire interconnected civilization, our food systems, our supply chains, our air travel, during an unusually quiet volcanic period. The systems capable of ending that quiet are known. They are monitored. Campi Flegrei is one of them. And the honest assessment of the people who study it is not, it will erupt soon. It's we are watching it accelerate, and we don't fully know where the threshold is. So what happens next? In Iceland, expect the 10th Sundanukur eruption, likely within weeks, possibly by the time some of you watch this video. The barriers around Grindavik and Svartsengi will be tested again. In Indonesia, Merapi, Semeru, Luatobi, and Krakatau will continue their eruptions, and the danger there is real and immediate. Pyroclastic flows and lahars, the volcanic mud flows that follow tropical rains, remain among the deadliest forces on Earth for the communities on those slopes. In Italy, Etna will erupt again. It always does. And the world's volcanologists will keep their most nervous eyes not on the mountain that makes the headlines, but on the quiet, rising ground beneath the suburbs of Naples, where 500,000 people live on the roof of a supervolcano that has begun, very slowly, to breathe. The planet is not ending, but it is doing what it has always done, reminding us, in fire and ash on 3 continents at once, that we are guests on a living world. A world with a molten heart, a shifting skin, and absolutely no obligation to stay quiet just because we built our cities on top of it. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because when the next eruption begins, whether it's Iceland's fissures, Indonesia's fire mountains, or something nobody saw coming, we'll break down exactly what's happening and what it means for you. Drop a comment below. Which of these 3 volcanic zones worries you the most? Indonesia's 8 burning mountains, Iceland's countdown, or the sleeping giant under Naples? I read every comment. Stay alert, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.